Welcome back everyone to the bootcamp. In this session, we are going to look one of the most important topic of this whole series, which is going to be widget. So I can assure you that if you master widget, you can write complex to complex UI with very ease. I'll also try to make this video as raw as I can, where if I make any mistake while writing the code, I'll try to debug it in the video itself, so you get the idea how you could do it by yourself. And yeah, so I'll fire up my Android Studio and we'll start writing some code there. In the previous session, we have seen that how we could, create our very first Flutter project in Android Studio, and we even tried running it on our Android phones or emulators. So in this video, we are going to talk about widget. So the very first thing I'll do is I'll clear all the predefined code here. And now here, I've talked about the main function in the previous video, that it is a trigger point or the starting point in in Dart, right? And now we have something called run app. As the name says, run app, it is going to run our application in in our phone. Okay, so in run app, we need to pass a widget, and in the most of the case, we pass something called material app. Material app is a design system created by Google, where you can give your application a title here. I'll write my first application, and here you can do many things, like you can give theme to your application, you can add font family to your application, you can define different routes to your application. So for me, I'll do one thing. I'll define a home screen. So I type here home, and it asks me to give a widget. So I'll create a widget, a stateless widget. So that in Flutter there are two types of main widget, called stateless widget and stateful widget. So I'll take an example of this counter application. In this application, you can see that when I tab on this button, the UI changes. The number get incremented by 1, right? So when I tab here, the UI changes. So in this case, when we want a UI to be changed, a UI to be interactive, we use a stateful widget. And talking about stateless widget, it's a widget when you use it when you don't need your screen or your UI to be changed. Okay, so now I hope you have understood the difference between stateless and stateful widget. Now we are going to name a stateless widget. I'm going to name it home screen. You can name it anything, but yeah, please name it relevant, like you could understand what it is going to mean. So now I know that I want to tell my application what is going to be a home. So my home is going to be home screen. Okay, so you write your home screen. After that, there's something we have. Whenever we write any widget, we have to write scaffold. So what does this scaffold do? Well, scaffold structures your screen UI. For example, you can see here we have a app bar. In app bar, we have a title. Then we have a body. Then we have a floating action button. So dividing the components is because of because of scaffold. So for here, I can give you app bar, and in app bar I could give you a title, and the type of a title is going to be always text. So I'm going to wrap this text in the text widget, and I could name it my first application. Okay, now I want the background color of this app bar to be changed to red. So I could just type background color, and background color is going to take a widget, again a widget, and this time it is going to be a colors widget. So when you type colors and then you give dot, you can see many color comes in this alert dialog. So you can select anything. For example, I want the color red. I type red here and press enter, and so it is going to change the background color of the app bar. Now I want my body. Cool. So I'll type here body, and in body I'll give a container. We'll talk about container later. So when I rerun this application, you can see that I have a app bar, I have a title, I have a background color red, and I have a body. So what is container? Container is a box. Okay, so a box always has a height, width, and a color. In the same way, a container also has a height, width, and color. With that, you can also decorate the thing. Now after stateless and stateful widget, this is the This is the one widget which we are going to use mostly. So the container, in the container you can give it a height. Okay, so I'll give it a height of 80 and width of 80 pixels, and I'll give it a color of colors dot blue, so you can see it. So when I run this thing, you can see that we have a container of height and width of 80. Okay, so now what I'll do is I increase this to 120 and again to 120, and when I hot reload this thing, you can see this is a container of height and width 180 and color blue. What if I want a text here between the container? And so what I'll do is, so a container has something again has something called child. Okay, child means that it can under the container take one more widget. So for this you can give any widget, but I'm going to take a widget called text, and in text I'm going to write hello world. Hello world. Okay, when I refresh this page, you can see hello world written here. Now what if I want this thing to be centered, right? So what I'll do is I'll wrap the text in a center widget. Okay, so what you need to do is just tap on alt and enter, and there you can see wrap with center. When you enter on it, now you and hot reload the page, you can see hello world comes between the container, right? Now what if I want the text of the text of hello world to be changed to white? I'll just type style. I want text style. The style again takes a widget, and we have a widget called text style. Everything in Flutter is a widget. So in text style, I, I could add color, and the color is going to be white. And what if I want the text to be bold? I could just type font weight and then font weight dot bold. And when I hot reloaded, you can see that the font has been bold. Okay, so now what if I want this container to take the height of the screen as well as the width of the screen? So I simply write a code here, media query dot of context dot size dot height. And in the similar way, I'm going to rewrite the code for width. I'll change from height to width. So what does this code says? So this code says that give me the height of the screen, and this says that give me the width of the screen. So in this thing, what is context then? So you can say that our whole application is a tree, so in which a root is going to be material app, and that material app is going to have different different childs, so different children. So for example, a material app is going to have something called home screen, and a home screen is going to have different children called scaffold, and a scaffold is going to have a app bar, a body, and our app bar is going to have a title, background color. In the similar way, a body is going to have a container. So in this way, there are a lot of code, there are a lot of confusion for our application to know where this text widget is, where this container is. So to remove this confusion, we use something called context. So you can say that context tells Flutter कि वो tree में है कहाँ पे. Okay, so now we have the height and width of the whole screen of this font. So when I try to hot reload this thing, you can see that now my container takes the size of the whole font. It takes the height of the screen. It also takes the width of the screen. Okay. So as we have talked about containers, center widget, and text widget, it's time to talk about one of the most important widget again. But first, let's discuss about the use case of it. So for example, I want an application where I want hello world 4 times to be shown in the screen in the column, like in column in this way. Okay, so in this case, I could not use text many a times because container takes a single argument, which is a child, right? So what I'll do is I'll copy this text widget so I could reuse it again. I'll delete this center widget because we don't need it anymore. I'll use a column widget here because I want my hello world to be shown in the screen in a column, in this in a vertical way. Okay, so like column should have children. Why? Because we want it to have more than one widget. Okay, so I'll add a children. So a children is going to be a text widget, then it's again going to be a text widget, then it's again going to be a text widget, and one more time. When I save it, you can see that hello world is shown in the screen 4 times. Okay, now what if I want this for hello world to be placed in the center of the screen? Okay, so in column there are two types of alignment. One is cross axis alignment, and second one is main axis alignment. So if we go from left to right, it is going to be a cross axis alignment. If we go from top to bottom, it's going to be a main axis alignment. So for hello world to be placed in the center of the screen, we are going to use main axis alignment, which is going to be top to bottom. So I'll type main axis alignment. In main axis alignment, I want the thing to be placed in the center. When I hot reload the page, you can see that this thing is the center. Now what if I want this thing to be aligned in the center, but I also want it to be aligned in the starting of the screen? Okay, so in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a cross axis alignment, which is going to be from left to right. So I'll add cross axis alignment, and in cross axis alignment, I'm going to type cross axis alignment dot start. So you can see that we have now hello world, hello world, hello world written 4 times, and it is in the starting of the screen. Okay, so now we have one more use case. For example, what if I want this hello world to be aligned perfectly? So I want this thing to be distributed perfectly. The pixel should between them should be perfect. So what I'll do is I'll just type in the main axis alignment, I'll just type from center to space between. This is going to distribute hello world, and it is going to give the space between them. And what if I want to leave the space about the first hello world and about and below the last hello world? I'll simply type space around. Okay, so when I refresh it, you can see that we have now equal spaces around them, right? Now we have seen column. Now it's time to see. Now let's see the use case first. I'll decrease the font size to 14. What if I want hello world to be shown like this? Hello world to be shown horizontally. Okay, so in this case, what I'm going to use, so this is a row, right? So simply I'll change from container to row. I'll delete this thing first. We'll say this how it is going to. So you can see that hello world here is shown in the row, right? Now, what if I want to distribute it horizontally to from left to right? Okay, I want it to take the whole space of the width. I'll simply type. Okay, so the main axis alignment of the row will be changed from top to bottom to left to right. Okay, so the main axis alignment of row is going to be left to right, and the cross axis alignment is going to be uh, right to from top to bottom. Okay, so here I could just type that main axis alignment dot space around. Now you can see that the thing get distributed with the size of the screen, with the width of the screen. Now what if I want my hello world to be shown here at the top? Okay, so now it's time to shift this thing from top to bottom to top. So you know what you need, you know what you have to use. You have to use cross axis alignment. So in cross axis alignment, I could type cross axis alignment dot start, and when I refresh the page, you can see that a whole row goes up, right? So this was the use case of column and row. Now let's talk about something called margin and padding. What I'll do is I'll clear all this thing. Okay, and here I'm going to have two containers with the height of 100 and width of 100, and color is going to be red. Okay, so when I press save, you can see that we have a container here now, I want one more container. So I'll copy this same code here and paste it again, and I change the color to green. Cool. So we have two containers. Okay, I'll do this to center and this also to center. Or what I'll do is I'll clear this thing because we don't require it here. So when I clear this thing, you can see that we have two containers. One is red and one is green. What if I want some space between red and green? So what I'll do is in container green, I'll type margin and then I'll type something called edge insets dot only, because we want to move this container to right. Okay, to right. So I type I'll type only here, and then I'll write here from right move to 10 pixel. Sorry, from left move to 10 pixel. So it is going to move to right by 10 pixel, right? Now what if I want to move this container by 10 pixel to the bottom? I'll just type here top 10 pixel. So you can see that a container is moved to 10 pixel bottom, right? So when we're talking about margin, it's going to be outside the container, and when we are talking about padding, it's going to be inside container. So for example, I'll show you the padding. I'll have a child, and it is going to have a widget called text, and with text widget, I'm going to write some metadata, which is going to be, suppose I'll write my name, okay, Aniket Singh. Cool. So here I want a padding where I want my name to be placed 10 pixel to the bottom and 10 pixel to the right. Okay. So instead of margin, margin is for the outer side of the container and padding is for the inner side of the container. I'll give a padding, and padding I'll write adjacent dot only. My name should be uh, 10 pixel to the bottom, so I'll write top 10 pixel. So you can see that my name has been aligned to 10 pixel to the bottom from the previous path. Now I also want it to be placed to 10 pixel right, so I'll write here लेफ्ट लेफ्ट से मुझे इसको 10 पिक्सल आगे ले जाना जो कि राइट में जाएगा. सो आई just save this thing, and you can see that it has moved to 10 pixel towards right. Okay, so this was a use case of margin and padding. Okay, so now let's talk about another widget which is called uh, let's see its use case. So for example, you have a screen, and you have some contents in column or row, but it is exceeding the limit of the screen. For example, you can see this hello world is coming out of your screen. So in this case, the most common thing you could do is you can add a scroll view to your screen. So you could when you scroll it, you can see the content which is exceeding the screen, right? So as you know our use case, let's discuss how it is going to work. So very first thing I'm going to do is change row to column. Okay, and then I'm going to, yeah, so when I and I'm going to clear the left margin, so we would have a comma, and I'm going to do the same thing for this widget. Okay, now what I'll do is I'll copy paste the same thing again and again till it exceeds the limit of the screen. So I'll paste this 4 times. You can see that we get an error here at the bottom of our screen that the screen limit exceeds the size of the widget, right? So what you could do in this case is go to the column and tab alt and enter, and there click on wrap on widget and type a widget name called single child scroll view. Okay, so the default scroll direction for column is going to be vertical, and the default scroll direction for the row is going to be horizontal. So once I save this thing up, you can see that I'm able to scroll from top to bottom. What if I change this thing to row and I restart the application? You can see that it is giving us an error at the right side of, where again it is telling us that the screen size is exceeding the size of the widget. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a scroll direction. So I'm going to change the scroll direction from vertical to axis dot horizontal, and when I save this thing up, you can see that now I'm able to scroll from left to right. Okay, So now we have talked about stateless widget and many different widgets like container text, column rows, and we have also seen margin padding. Now it's time and single child scroll view too. So now it's time to see the difference between stateless and stateful widget practically. Okay. So for example, what I'll do is I'll remove this single child scroll view. Okay. Now I want only one container. This is the container. What's the error? Single child scroll view. Okay, and then I just have a I just have a container, and this container is going to have a child, and child is going to be center widget, and it is going to be again a container where the height of the container is going to be 200 pixel, width of the container is again going to be 200 pixel, and this time the color is going to be colors dot red. Okay, so once I save this, you can see that we have a container of color red. So in this case, what I want to do is when I click on the container like this, I want the size of the container to decrease. So this is the change of UI. This is a change in the UI, right? So I cannot do this in the stateless widget. So what I'm going to do is instead of stateless widget, I'm going to change it to stateful widget. I'll go to stateless widget and press Alt and Enter and convert this thing to stateful widget. Okay, so now we have a home screen which is a stateful. So now I'll create two variable of constant container. I'm going to give it num container height. Okay, so the container height by default is going to be 100, and then we are going to have a container width which is going to be again 100. Okay, so we have made our height, we have created two variables of container height and width. Okay, now we want when we tab on this container. Okay, so to tab is to to for our application to know if we have tabbed somewhere or not, we have again we have to use a widget called gesture detector. So I want the gesture detector to only detect a gesture when we tab on this container. So I'm going to wrap a container with widget called gesture detector, and a gesture detector is going to have something called on tab. Okay, so on tab is a function. Okay, so I'll do something like this, and when I tab on this, I should print tabbed. Okay, uh, tabbed. Okay, so now you can see here in the console when I tab on it, it prints in the console it prints the tab. It prints the tabbed on the container. Okay, so instead of tab, what I want is when I tab on the container, I want to set the height of the container to set container height to 200 and container uh, width to 200. Cool. So by default we are going to have a container height and container width. So it is not accepting because okay, so it is going to be double. Okay, so now it is accepting the values. So by default the height and the width of the container is going to be 100 by 100. Okay, so when I save this thing, it is going to decrease. Okay, so now what I want is when I tab on it, it should increase to 200 pixel. So what I'm doing is when I tab on it, I've written a code here that when I tab on the container, the state of the container should change to the height and width of 200. Okay, so let's see if it works. When I click on it, you can see that the height of the screen of the container changes. So this was the use of stateful widget and gesture detector. When you want some changes on the screen, we use stateful widget. When your screen is static or when you don't want the changes to be there are no changes in the screen, we use a stateful widget. Now you might have question, okay, why did we declared the variable about this here, and why not in the build method? Because whenever this set state is called, it rebuilds the build method, right? So for example, if it is by default the value is going to be 100, right? So when I set this variable inside the build method like this, and whenever I'll restart the application. Now you can see that whenever I click on this, you can see that the state is not changing. The size of the container is not increasing. Why? Because whenever whenever we call this method called set state, it is going to re-render the whole component, this component. So whenever we re-render it, it is again going to render to 100, right? So for example, when I click on it, it re-renders, and it is not going to change to 200, it is going to change to 100. So instead of always changing this values on re-render, what we could do is we want this to be changed only when our application gets loaded, right? So here, once our application is loaded, this value is declared, right? And whenever we click on this, the state is being changed, like the build method is being again re-rendered, but this time we are not redeclaring this thing here in the bottom. We already have it declared about the build method, right? So you can change this thing from we are able to change this thing from 100 to 200. So this is the reason why we are placing this above the build method and not under the build method. Now let's look at one of the very coolest thing in Flutter. And for example, in our case here, if I click on this container, you can see it directly increases the size without any animation. It's boring, right? So what I could do is, instead of container, I could replace it with animated container. So here, we can add a duration. I want to have a duration of seconds 3. Cool. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to write boolean is clicked. By default it's going to be false. Okay, so whenever I click on this, I want the boolean, which is clicked, to be changed to the opposite of is clicked. So this is exclamation sign, and the variable name is actually the sign where it says that whatever the value of is click is, do opposite to it. For example, if is click is false, when we click on it, it is going to become true, and if it is true, it is going to become false. Cool. So we have is clicked. Now I'm going to add when we click on the container. So when we click click, when we click on the container, I want the height to be 200, else I want it to be 100. So this question mark and this colon is called ternary operator. It is same as I'll show you here. If I'll type if is clicked is equal to true, then change the height change the height height to 200, else change the height to 100. This is the same code which we wrote here. Okay, so when it is clicked, I want the height to be changed to 200. If it is not clicked, I want the height to be 100. And in the same way, when it is I'll copy the same thing here. When it is clicked, I want the width to be 200, and when it is not clicked, I want the width to be 100. Okay, so when I save it, it is not clicked right now. Okay, so it has to be 100. So when I click on it, you can see the animation. Okay, so it is a 3-second animation where it increases, where it increases, and when you click again to it, it decreases. Okay, so you could even add decrease to milliseconds, and I'll add it 600, change it to 600, and when I click on it, you can see that this animation looks pretty good right now. Okay, so what we could do more is, yeah, so what we could do is, if I click on the container, I want the color to be changed to colors dot green, else let it be colors dot red. So now I have not clicked on it, so the color is red. When I click on it, you can see that the color changes to green. So it looks awesome, right? Now, as we know the basics of Flutter, like we have talked about many Flutter which we are going to use day to day if we are going to develop in Flutter. Now let's do a mini project where we are going to build this screen with animation, right? So let's start building it. What we are going to do is I'm just going to clear this all thing. I'm going to clear the whole scaffold thing, and I'm going to add an image. Okay, so in the last video I've told you the file structure. In that I've told you that I'm going to show you how you could add the image. So this is the video, this is the session in which I'm going to show it. So what you need to do is go to pubspec.yml file. Okay, so when you are here, what you need to do is, I'll click, this is the wrong indentation. I'll go I'll click on backspace to go to delete our indentation. Now, what I'm going to do, in the root directory, I'm going to create a folder called asset assets. Okay, in this folder, I'm going to add a file. This is the image which I'm going to add. Okay, so I've added the file. This is the image. Now, I'll write the folder name and give slash here. Now I'll now I'll click here pubget. So it is going to get the image which you have added in the asset. Okay, so once you do that, what we want is, we want a body, we want a scaffold, the background color to be of this color, the UI which you see here. Okay, so what I could do here is, I could write background color, and in color I could give colors dot color. If you have code and you need to specify it, what you, instead of colors, you just write color and bracket open and close, and you give here the value, uh, and right starting to it type 0xff. Okay, so now the background color would be this, right? Now we want a body, and in body we want a container, and in container we want height to be height of the screen. So I'm going to use media query dot of context dot size dot height, and I'm going to do this again for width. So I'll copy this thing. So I'll copy this thing. Now I'll type width and paste this thing, and instead of height I'm going to type width. Okay, so in child I'm going to have column. So why column? Because in the UI you can see that we have first WhatsApp logo and then a text written WhatsApp. So this both are in a column. So in column I'll add children. So to add image in your screen, you type image dot asset. If it is in your local file, you need to add asset. Or if if it is coming from the network, you could add network, and here you could specify the path of the image in double quotes, right? So we already have it in our asset, so we are going to use asset, and then we are going to specify the path as assets slash whatsapp.png. Okay, so when I refresh this page, I have to reload this thing up. Okay, yeah, so this image you can see in the screen. I could decrease the size of the WhatsApp icon or logo to 90 pixel or 70 pixel. Yeah, 70 pixel is better. Now I'll add a text here. Okay, so text, to write text we use text widget, and in text I'm going to write what's app, right? So you can't see WhatsApp because it is of color black, so I'm going to do some styling and change the color to it. So I type style, and in style I'm going to type text style, and in text style the color is going to be colors dot colors dot white, and I'm going to change the weight to font weight dot bold. Okay, I should increase the size too. So to increase the size, I could write font size, then I have to write 20. This looks much better. And what if I want a space between the image and uh, the text? I've told you you could use the padding, but instead of padding, I could also use something called sized box. Okay, so size box is basically an empty box where you can use it to give a dummy height of width to it, which is used to increase the space between the two widgets. Okay, so here I would give it a height of 20, and I'll add a comma here, so you can see that we have now some height between the logo and the text. Okay, so now what I want this thing to uh, be in the center of the screen, right? So I write main axis alignment dot center, so it's in the center of the screen. And I also want to remove this banner because it is not looking nice. Okay, so what I'll do is in the material app I could type show show debugger mode banner. I'm going to change from true to, by default it is going to be true, so change this thing to false and save this up, and restart the application. So you can see that the debug banner goes off. Now what if I want to, you know, I want an animation where when I click on it, uh, the WhatsApp text should move a little bit down. Okay, so what I'll do is, is click is here. We have is clicked. So I'll wrap this text widget with something called text gesture detector, which we use to detect the gesture of the user, so he could, when he click on something, our app knows that, right? So on gesture detector I'll type on tab. So whenever someone taps on it, I have a function where I'll set a state to is click equal to opposite to is click, by adding an exclamation mark in the starting of the variable name. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll add a widget, and the widget would be my widget would be padding, and in padding I could add uh, padding edge and sets dot only top 20. So if I write 20, you can see that it is moving a little bit down. So I want this only to happen when is clicked. So when is clicked is true, I want the height to the padding, the bit height between them to be increased by, or what I could do is, instead of using this padding, what I can do is, I can change the height between them. So if it is clicked, I want the height to be increased by 80, else I'll skip it only 20. Okay, so when I save this thing up and when I click on it, you can see that the height, the size between them increases, right? So this was it for today's long session. Now we will meet in the live session where we are going to discuss your doubts and queries, and we'll also create a big project where we are going to clone a company's application. It could be a Tesla's app, it could be a Amazon clone, it could be a Flipkart clone. What I'll do is I'll keep a poll on Discord where you can choose what you want to build. So I'll keep a poll there and you have to vote, and whatever gets the highest vote, we are going to build that. Okay, so let's meet in the next live session. See you there.